G'day everyone, welcome to Breakout Wednesday. It's Wednesday the 24th of July 2019. It's early in the morning before the Aussie market opened. The US market is actually still open, so the US charts today will only have been updated as of Monday data, not data as of Tuesday night. Okay, so the markets have been relatively good and consolidating. They haven't been storming up, but they've been pretty solid, especially in Aussie, where we've had a lot of movement in the gold stocks, nickel stocks, and a bunch of small caps. In the US, it's earnings season at the moment, so we're getting a lot of volatility on individual stocks. One example last week was Netflix, which Netflix is still printing money. However, they just announced earnings that was not growing as quick as it used to grow, and they got beaten up. There's a lot more competitors for Netflix now. Disney's has a much bigger library than them of content, and Netflix is losing shows, and so the US markets really punish stocks when they don't meet their estimates in terms of earnings. So it's one to watch. I don't take short-term trades right before earnings announcement. If I hold a long-term position and investment in that company, I will hold it. However, short-term momentum trades, I always need to know when the earnings date is, because I'll never take. It's just gambling if you take an entry a few days before that. Okay, so I'll clear my positions out and just be flat, and then I'll wait for basis to set up post earnings before entering. Okay, so moving on. Today I'm just going to run through a few stocks that I've been talking about the last few weeks to start with, and then I'll move on to some new setups. So the last few weeks I've been talking a lot about gold stocks and the fact that there were a bunch of gold stocks setting up at the same time, and I'm just going to run through a few of these. So Northern Star is one of the main ones we talked about over last week and the week before that. It was sitting in a Davis box back here. It broke out of that. I took a small position. I took a position in that. Got out of half of it up here, and then re-entered again on the break of this box. I'm already out of half of that position. I'm letting the other half run. The placement of the stop loss now, this is always the hard bit. I've sold half of this position. I've got half left. I've still got half of this initial position too. So I'm definitely not going to have my stop loss down at the bottom of this box anymore at 10.8. And where to put it here is incredibly difficult. For me, I've got a decent amount of profit here. I don't overly enjoy. This is not a long-term investment, Northern Star. I don't really intend to own this in 10 years from now or anything like that. It's in a short-term trading account, not in a super fund or a trust or account or anything like that. So I'll be trailing this below the low. I'm probably going to use a 3-bar reversal for Northern Star. I am going to use a 3-bar reversal for Northern Star. So currently it sits below this day on the 19th of July. All right. So I've locked in all that profit. It's probably going to come and stop me out at some stage pretty soon. But if I get lucky, maybe this runs up another 10-15%. Who knows? So I'm just giving myself a chance to make a bit of extra on top of what we've already made out of that one. Okay, so NTM's also done okay. It's obviously a much larger cap, so it moves slower. Broke out of this triangle and has had some good up days. All the gold stocks tend to be moving together. Let's have a look at SLR. This is one of the main ones we spoke of. Last week, it was consolidating and compressing below this resistance line here. Broke up on the 18th. Got filled on open on this day, and it's had 3 big up days and then a down day today. So I had this initial position back here. I took half off here, and then and I held the half. It's a bit like NST, and then I put another full position on here, and then I've taken half off up here already. Now for this one, my stop loss, I'm using a 1-bar reversal. So if you look at this initial breakout here, if you just trailed your stop loss below the low of every single bar, you would have got stopped out here at this doji, okay, and that would have been a pretty good trade to get stopped out there. And so I'm going to do the same for this one. I don't think we're going to get a move that's quite as good as this first move. I'm probably going to get stopped out tomorrow, but I'm still happy with that. It's a good trade, and then I'll bank that cash and move on. LTR, we spoke about last week and the week before, I believe. LTR had this big base, broke out, big volume, raced up, hit its first target at 0.16. And then I sold a bit more, when it sparked up a bit more. I've still got about 20% of this position left. I'm probably going to get stopped out of that. I got a stop loss just down here at 1.135. It's just 20% left. These things are so volatile. I'm not hanging around in these things too long. I'm really just getting in, waiting for that explosive breakout and getting out. So the thing is my view on this is that my edge really in the market is that you relatively consistently pick explosive breakout points on the short and long side, depending on the market that we're in, and so my edge is that I can pick that moment when the stock is going to move. But after it's moved and had that explosive break up or down, my edge really disappears for the short-term stuff. I mean, after it's gone up a bunch, I have absolutely no edge at all. I have no idea what things are going to do. And so that's my opinion and kind of the way I view it. I've got no edge hanging onto this thing. I don't know its fundamentals at all. I've got no interest in learning about its fundamentals. It's just a trade, and I'll take the profit and I'll move on with these penny dreadfuls, and I'll leave the long-term stuff for companies that I really like and believe in and all that. Okay, so now let's just touch on one that hasn't gone well. MEI, talked about this last week and the week before, I believe. I bought this break here on the 19th of July, and the next day it plummeted back down. And so the way I view this is that I'm looking for these penny dreadful, companies that I don't know. This probably doesn't even have a business. It's probably just trying to find something in the ground, and it may or may not ever do that. And I'm looking for explosive breakouts like that last chart of LTR. And if I don't get that, then I go into defensive mode, and it's all about minimizing my loss. And so my risk is based on a stop loss below this 0.023. And if it plummets down and stops me out quickly, so be it. I'm going to take that loss. However, now my plan is that I've accepted I'm going to make a loss, and I'm just going to try and keep that as small as possible. So today, when we had this thing just spark up to 0.027, I managed to get about half of them away at 0.027 and minimise that loss. I've got about half of them left. Unfortunately, there weren't enough people to buy all of my parcels, so it's back. It came back down again, and I'm hoping tomorrow on open we get a bit of a spark up again, and I can offload the rest. And then that's cool. I just took a pretty small loss, and I walk away. If tomorrow it gaps down and comes down here, it'll stop me out, and that's fine as well, because that's the game I'm playing. All right. So just before we move on to a few other stocks, I'm not going to go through all the gold stocks that I've talked over the last few weeks, because we're gonna that'll take forever. There's a lot of FOMO at the moment, and I think now is actually a pretty good time to be careful about new positions, especially in gold stocks. We need to wait for them to set up again. It's if there's traders out there who probably missed a lot of these moves for whatever reason, and maybe they're a little pissed off about it, and they're feeling left out, and they're probably looking around at all sorts of setups right now, and pretty much anything that's a gold stock, they're looking at it and they're thinking, let's jump in and join the party, and it's the wrong thing to do. It's best just to wait for the leading stocks to set up again and jump on them. If you go try and force trades, and just because if you feel like you're missing out on some big gold boom, then you're just going to end up getting whacked. Okay, so let's move on. CMP. I missed this. I've been watching this carefully, but unfortunately, I was just a bit busy with other trades, and I saw this breaking out, and I just couldn't get it. I had capital problems, so it was just such a nice setup. Sideways, tiny volume, broke out on big volume, and it's raced up. It's apart from the fact that it's a little illiquid, and it'd be nice if it traded, more shares. Apart from that, it's an awesome setup, and it's a shame I missed that, but that's the way it goes. Okay, so in Aussie, it's been all about gold and nickel. NIC has had an awesome run, nickel mines, and so in America, it's still software really. The big software companies that are leading the way. It's funny that in 2019 we're talking about gold and silver stocks and nickels. Nickel not so much, but gold and silver stocks that are going nuts. When I think in other countries, especially in America, it's all software. It's cybersecurity. It's crypto. It's open source software. It's software is I think is the new commodity really out there, especially the decentralization of it, and that's kind of the new store of value. And in a global way, the software stocks are really the performers, especially over the last few years, and probably into the next few years. This gold run's fun while it lasts. I don't have any hopes of it lasting for 4 or 5 years or anything, but I'm just going to take the signals as they come and enjoy it, because they can, mining companies in Aussie really can provide us with some awesome breakouts. So moving on, I'm going to now run through a bunch of stocks that I'm stalking, and I don't have orders in for a lot of these. I'm literally just stalking them. I'm waiting for them to set up the way I want them to and prove themselves, and then I'll whack orders in and go for it. So Twilio is a massive software company in the States. It's got awesome fundamentals, awesome growth. It's one of these big companies that's changing the world, and I'm in this. I've got a position, but I'm watching this thing carve out a nice base. Earnings is coming up, so I need to be careful. But certainly a leading software stock. ECL, it's going to be a couple American, then I'll go back to the Aussie market. Ecolab's an American stock that's setting up at all-time highs. Now, let's just run through some little speckies. So this ECS is an Aussie weed stock, medical marijuana, I believe, that says it's software services there, but maybe that was a backdoor listing, because I'm pretty sure, it's an industrial hemp seed grower. So, so that's incorrect, that info. It's a little weed stock. It's just listed 2 days ago, so obviously there's no setup there, but it's just, I've added it to my IPO watch list. I'm just going to keep an eye on that and see if that forms an IPO base with time. Now, one that has formed an IPO base is PointsBet. PointsBet is cruising sideways about 7 days. Someone tried to, I think, the IBD, Investors Business Daily business in the States, tried to define how long an IPO has been. I think they were 10 days. This is at 7 days. It's getting pretty close. It's had a lot of bearish candles. Especially today, I was hoping it was going to close on its high up here and then challenge the $3.10 level, but it just gave us this wick up here to $3.07 and then came back down. And so maybe it's going to break down, maybe it's not going to break up. I have no clue, but if it breaks up, I think it's going to be a decent signal. I'm going to be in it. If it breaks down, then who cares? I didn't lose, nothing lost there. So, but that's certainly one I'm watching. Massive growth in America, this company potentially. EDE, Eden, okay. So this is a little Aussie stock that has really nice volume here and here on the two last upswings. It's consolidating now in small volume. I like that, but it needs longer. I'm certainly not going to get that if it breaks out tomorrow or whatever. It's going to go without me. But if it can just base for a tiny bit longer and tiny volume, then that could be pretty cool. Another one setting up is electro-optic systems. I like this one. I've been in it a few times. It's in a nice uptrend and it's basing at the moment. Once again, I'd like this just to come around to the right here and just form a little handle on low volume, and it could be a super nice signal. Okay, another one, MVF. Let's get to you. MVF, obviously IVF business, is basing. There's a lot of bullish candles here, nice volume. Let's just have a look at this big volume down day here, and I just am not worried by that at all. Obviously, we have a decrease in unbalanced volume, but if you just actually look at the candle, the unbalanced volume has gone down because it's gapped down on open, right? And that's just the auction process at open. That's all that means. It doesn't mean all the volume was done at open or anything. The unbalanced volume's gone down because the price has gone down compared to the day before. Okay, so but the fact is, this candle here is more bullish and bearish. There's more buying on this day than selling. The only way to know where that volume was distributed is to get out a daily chart and have a look at the volume profile of the day. However, as far as I'm concerned, this day I don't care that the unbalanced volume went down. The doji closed, towards the top, higher, closer to the top than the bottom. So there's more buying and selling. So as far as I'm concerned, that's cool. And if we have a break there, that could be a nice move. So watching MVF, NEU. Oh yeah, this one needs more time. I think MVF is good to go. I've got orders in waiting for that one. But NEU is, it needs more time as far as my rulebooks say. This isn't a long enough base. However, it's got potential. This move here was done on some decent volume, and now we're basing here. So I'm watching that one pretty closely. This stock PLS, this is not a setup at all. It's just I've got a few mates that always ask me about the stocks, and I've got one that's just obsessed with this, and I just can't figure it out. This was obviously a winner back in 2017, but why anyone would want to own this these days is beyond me. This needs to form a base, and that might take forever, ages, years, months, who knows. But at the moment, it's just this is high risk stuff, and trying to pick double bottoms or whatever people want to try and do on that is bottom fishing, and it's not high probability. If you want high probability and you want to hang around and be trading in 10 years from now and be positive every year, then you need to stay away from high risk gambling, stuff like that, right? So as far as I'm concerned anyway, it's each for their own. If you can do it, then good on you. You're probably way better than me at picking bottoms. So having said that, I'm going to contradict myself a little bit. This one is in a long-term downtrend. It's breaking my 200-day moving average rule. The thing that caught my eye here is just this climactic volume here, just massive volume on this on these lows here. And the last few big volume days were just done on really, really kind of tiny bars. The selling really dried up, and then we had some buying coming in. This pattern here is kind of tightening, and I think I certainly am not going to be in this for a long time. This is going to be a short-term trade that I'm in and out really quickly. There's a lot of left side action here, all the way back here, and I think that all this, there's going to be a lot of people quite, annoyed at themselves and holding a bit of a grudge and being quite emotional that they bought here, and they thought they were smart picking bottoms, and then suddenly this thing's down at $1, and they paid $3 for it, and it's going to bounce up here, and they're just going to cut their losses. So I think it's going to be volatile, and I'm just going to be in this for a quick buck, and then I'm going to run. American Pacific Borate, this company has just formed a tight ascending triangle. It's had big volume today. I need to do some research on this before market opens and see what this volume spike today was. If there's no news out, that's awesome. If there was news out, I'm probably going to leave this one. There's nothing better than a breakout, but no one knows why it's happened. I hate breakouts that happen just after news. Everyone knows the news already. It just feels like it's a sucker play. I love breakouts where there's been no news in a few days beforehand and no one really knows what's going on. They tend to be the best, and you tend to find that the news comes along later, and that's the way it should go. Now, one I climbed into today is ALU. ALU is a software stock. It's a leading Aussie software stock. Its EBIT was up 55% in its last earnings on 19th of Feb. After that, it has not closed that gap, which was a really, really good sign. It's tried to, but it couldn't. It formed this cup and then a handle, and it broke this wedge today. So I took an opening position on it today, and I'm going to just try and ride that higher. So I thought that was a cool one. All right, there's just a couple more. BOSS. Forming a base, there's too much left side potential here, resistance here for me. I'm going to leave that, but it's certainly setting up a bit like WAF the other day, which I'm not sure what's actually happened to WAF. Let's have a quick look. All right, so WAF's been an okay trade so far. It's a bit choppy, obviously that's had a decent move and maybe has more left in it. Who knows? So last one. Breville Group is tightening here. This is starting to get pretty tight. I'd like this to go on for a bit longer, and then reward to risk here is going to be pretty good. This volume here, I mean, these three big up candles wasn't done on huge volume, but I definitely would like to see some volume actually on the breakout candle. Otherwise, I'll be pretty strict with that. But I think that needs another few days minimum, maybe a week left of sideways action. Ideally, but you don't always get what you want, right? And so I just wanted to leave with one cool thing. Everyone always thinks stock listed companies must be respectable and above board, and it's completely not accurate. This podcast, Chat with Traders, it's awesome. It's got some just gold episodes in it. This one with Jonathan Shapiro, I found interesting. It doesn't have setups or anything like that in it. However, it goes through. Big Un was the stock on the ASX that I traded a bunch of times. It was into trying to sell small businesses videos, and it was just a complete scam. They were pretending that they had clients that they didn't have. They were booking money that was never going to rock up. They were cooking their books to look awesome when that revenue was never actually really going to appear. And these guys have gone under now. And the other one, Blue Sky Alternative Investments, was a private equity fund listed on the ASX that just kept opening fund after fund after fund, and promising everyone that they were going to invest their money into private equity that was going to obviously give a good return. But their real money was just made in just opening fund after fund, because there would be fees involved in the money they collected, obviously. And none of those really private equity investments they were making were really cashing in. It was just one big scam, so they've gone under as well. And this Jonathan Shapiro is just a great journalist. The way he investigated it, it was just really, it's a bit of an eye opener to and it just reminds us all that price is the most important thing. That there's so much dodgy stuff going out there that we can never know about. However, it's going to show up in a chart. If something's going down and down and down and down, there's a reason for that. It's smart investors get the hell out and just figure out later what was going on. Okay. So anyway, that's it for this week. Catch you later.